Hello, I just want to do today's study on the prophet Jeremiah. He was known as the weeping prophet because of the messages that he brought. And I got to thinking about the messages, and the reason I guess he was so weighed down by those messages was because of all the distress and the evil that was going on in Israel at that time. That just kind of weighed him down when he would minister to people. Which I guess it can do after a while when you keep ministering to somebody and you just see all this evil and this distress and just disobedience going on with the people. It kind of weighs you down. But especially the prophets when they're bringing the messages, you know, and they feel all that stress from the people. But he was ranked second among the greatest Old Testament witnesses, and his ministry started in 626 BC, and it lasted about 40 years. And he was sensitive, nature-minded, and timid. Which he was just kind of like one of those little, just soft little nature-minded people that just kind of, I guess, kept to himself and kind of just did what God called him to do. But I can tell you, these prophets, it gets so interesting reading about them, but he just seemed so interesting, I thought, when I got to just kind of digging more deeper into his ministry and the things that he'd done. It's just really interesting. I mean, and I can't imagine the stuff that he probably went through. I mean, just feeling all that distress and not knowing how to deal with it because he was a prophet, you know, and God called him to such a high office, you know, in the ministry of being a prophet and delivering his messages to the people. And I guess after a while, it just kind of weighs you down, which it does. I mean, the weight of the world can weigh you down, especially when you're in the ministry and you know, you got that heavy weight on you to delivering the messages to the people, and you know, you got to deal with all their problems, and you hear all their, you know, well, I shouldn't say problems, but all the things that they're going through and the issues that they're dealing with, and it just kind of weighed him down because he was such a soft-natured person, you know, and sensitive person that I guess people like that, you know, they kind of feel more a little bit, I think, because they're more sensitive. They're more, you know, they kind of catch on to people's emotions and their feelings and stuff like that. So that's kind of why he had such a doom and gloom, I guess they called him, the messages that he would deliver to people. But I tell you, I got to thinking about that. I thought, man, I don't know how that poor thing dealt with all that stuff. I mean, he had like such a weight on him with having to deliver the messages, you know, to the people that God told him to, and seeing their different reactions and how the people reacted to what he told them and stuff. I started thinking, I said, man, they must have been, that had to have been a pretty heavy weight that was on him. But it's so interesting to read about these prophets. I mean, when you start digging into the different ones, not just the major prophets, but even the minor prophets. I mean, they went through a lot of different things back then. Of course, things were different, way different back then than they are now. I mean, good gracious. When I think about that and all that stuff, plus being in ministry and how things were, I mean, they were so different, and the environments were so different, and you know, their situations were so different, and the things that they went through. I mean, it was just amazing. I think, how on earth did they get through that? I mean, because they didn't have all the technology that we have now. You know, they didn't have, you know, phones and tablets and Bibles and this and that, you know, to look scriptures up on or to study on or nothing. I mean, they had to totally depend on hearing the voice of God and hearing God talk to them, because they didn't have all the resources that we have now. Back then, they had, I mean, practically nothing. They had to depend on just God telling them, you know, the messages that he wanted them to deliver and stuff. And I mean, it was, man, I can't even imagine how difficult that probably would have been. I mean, not knowing what message you're going to deliver the next day or what day from the next. It's like, man, it's like one day from the next, you go to this day and it's like, oh Lord, what am I going to do now? And you really got to, I mean, they really had to be in tune to his voice. And I think that's a good thing for us to learn on these days. I mean, especially with the things going on, we have to be like they were, kind of, and be kind of more in tune to God's voice and more in tune to hearing him speak to us and tell us the things that he wants us to share with others and the things that he wants us to do, because it's going to be, you know, crucial in these last days that we really have to be in tune to him and really, you know, have ears to hear and hearts to receive his words, so that, you know, we can deliver the messages that he gives us to deliver to people. But I just wanted to give a little insight on the prophet Jeremiah. But I just thought, man, I start reading about all these prophets, and it is so interesting. It is just amazing at the things that they've done, and the situations that they were in, and how they dealt with them, and how they dealt with different, you know, people's issues and just different things. It's just really amazing and interesting to me. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight, but I do encourage you, you know, like I told you in my other video, to just do a little bit of studying on your own about them. And just, I mean, it's so fascinating. It's like a book that you just can't put down. You know, you start reading about them, and it's like, man, you get really into it, and you just, it's like you just spend hours and hours reading about it. But it's like I was telling my friend the other day, I said, you know, what would be really awesome is if we could just sit down with those prophets, you know, and just, you know, sit down and talk to them and just hear their insight and the things that they've done, and hear their life and their ministry and the things that they went through would really be interesting. I think that would be awesome to be able to do that. That'd be really cool. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight on that. But until next time, be blessed. Oh, and by the way, I also put my email in the description box below the video, so that if you have any prayer requests, please feel free to email me your prayer requests, and I'll be in agreement with you on whatever, you know, issues you want me to pray with you on. But I just thought I'd put that in there. But I'll put my email in the description box below, so that you can send me an email with your prayer request. But until next time, be blessed. Bye.